In this video, we'll cover adding surface design to your project. More specifically, we will be talking about slip trailing. Slip trailing is a technique that uses slip, which is just watered down clay, to create a raised design on the surface of your project. This technique is done when your clay is leather hard and should not be applied past the leather hard stage. You can have a fair amount of control when you're working with slip trailing, but you're not going to get a ton of control because you are working with less defined clay. The process for this technique is closer to writing with icing on a cake. For this technique, you can make your own slip or you can use the slip provided in the classroom, which has color. You'll see both of those techniques in the video today. Here are some examples of unfired work with slip, where the slip is applied on the left-hand side of the tray and on the wings in this cup. And then the green surface design is all slip trailing. In this plate, you can see the slip trailing on the left in the dots, and then this is what it looks like with glaze on it after it's been fired. The dark blue area on this mug is what was slip trailed. In order to make your own slip, you are going to be putting small pieces that are all broken up into a Ziploc bag. These pieces should still be plastic clay. You don't want anything that's leather hard because it's going to be harder to mix with your water. Then you're going to open up your bag, pour a little bit of water in, make sure your bag is nice and sealed, and then you'll start to apply pressure to the bag using your fingers, and you'll start squishing that water and infusing it into the clay to create one consistent yogurt type mixture. Add in small amounts of water at a time to make sure that the consistency becomes like a Greek yogurt. Keep working the bag and squishing the clay until it's one consistent consistency with no lumps at all. Be gentle with the bag to make sure not to pop it, and add water as needed. Once all of the lumps are all worked out, you're going to cut a hole in the corner of the bag. You can get all of the clay out of it, and then you're going to cut a small hole. This will be where you can squeeze the actual slip out of the bag. When you're happy with the size hole that you've created, you can go ahead and use the bag like a piping bag for cakes to start to put your design onto your piece. I always recommend practicing on a scrap piece of clay so that you know what it's going to look like when it goes onto your final piece. You can always scrape off things that you're not happy with, but it's much easier to practice it and make sure the consistency and the size and the lines are exactly what you're looking for. To apply the slip that you just made from your bag onto your piece, you're going to start off by drawing with one of the metal stylus pieces what design you want to put on there. I always draw my design on first so that I know where all of my lines need to go. Then I very gently take that slip bag that I cut the hole into and start to apply it to my piece. Remember that you can wipe off anything you're not happy with. My hands aren't always the most steady, and sometimes they're a little shaky. So if you have some shaky lines, you can use your finger to kind of clean up any of those lines once your slip trail is a little more dry. Another option, if you want either a color or you want a different sort of application for your slip trailing, is that we do have pre-mixed colored slip in the classroom. This is made from Minnesota Clay Company and it works really well. We also have just regular slip applicator bottles. They look like the Minnesota Clay Company, but they're just the color of our clay, and we make the slip ourselves. So if you don't really want a color and you just want the slip in a different bottle, you are welcome to use those as well. All of these bottles come with a red cap on top, so just make sure that you replace the red cap when you're finished so that they don't dry up. Before you use each of these, you are going to make sure to shake them up and get all of the slip mixed inside the bottle. Whenever you use these, you're going to want to test them out again on a piece of clay. This helps to get any unnecessary lumps out of your first batch, and it also helps you to get a consistent layer and to get a feel for the slip trailing before you put it directly on your project. You might notice that the colored slip is a little bit more runny and a little bit more watery. It will hold its shape pretty well, but it is going to be less controlled than the slip we make here in class. You can choose to use one or both of these slip trailing techniques throughout your project. Neither one is better than the other, it's just personal preference. This is another example of a finished piece using slip trailing to create texture.